Hey everyone. So I just saw Suicide Squad, DC's latest comic book movie featuring the worst heroes ever. And I gotta say, DC needs to quit, like right now. Because if Suicide Squad represents the rest of the DC movies that we're gonna get in the next few years, it's gonna be a crap show. Because Suicide Squad is easily one of the worst movies I have seen all year. So basically, Viola Davis wants to assemble Task Force X, as she calls it, which includes Deadshot, Slipknot, and Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Captain Boomerang, and El Diablo. Yeah. So, the worst of the worst, the big bad super villains of the DC universe. And in the first 15 minutes of this movie, she sits down with a bunch of other government dudes, and she talks about each one's special abilities, backstories, and their code name. 15 minutes of just talking to the audience, explaining what these characters are, what they can do, and what their name is. It was pointless. The first 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of this movie is pointless. Because everything that is explained in that time is explained later, better, throughout the movie. It's poor writing. Right from the get-go, this movie is poorly written within the first few minutes. And then the rest of the movie happens. And it's even worse. She wants to assemble this team, and she has this big plan, and no one wants it. And then she unveils Enchantress, this big, weird witch lady that can do stuff that doesn't make sense. And they say, okay, do it. We can assemble the team just in case something happens. And within 5 minutes, something happens, of course. So they assemble the team. So after the Task Force X is assembled, they go out to the field to fight the Enchantress? Honestly, I'm not clear on what happened because I don't get it. The movie makes no sense. It's so confusing. They say, the Enchantress and her brother dude are, wreaking havoc with this beam in the sky, exactly like the first Avengers movie, but they don't go fight her until the last 5 minutes of the movie. What was the point? What were they doing for an hour and a half? What is happening? Nothing is happening. They go to some building for no reason. They fight some literal piles of trash. And they do nothing. Nothing happens in this movie. It's just an hour and a half. The beginning hour and a half is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. They go up to this building and they're like, oh, we need to get this one dude. And it turns out that it's Viola Davis in this big briefing conference room. Where did that come from? Why is this necessary? It's like her headquarters, like her Overwatch station where she can make sure that the bad guys are still doing what they're doing and going to kill the Enchantress. So why do they go get her? I don't get it. I do not get why this happened. In the meantime, they're having fight scenes with these piles of trash guys, and there is no stakes. You don't feel anything for them. A, because you don't care about their characters, because there is no character, and B, the action scenes are so poorly executed that you can't see what's going on. There's a bunch of just quick cuts and shaky cam, and then people get cut up, and then there's some slow motion and stuff. Without the slow motion, honestly, it would look like nothing. It would look like shapes and colors merging on screen. And that's it. That's what the action scenes look like. Nothing happens. I can't tell what is going on in this movie. I don't know what was happening. And then, to make things worse, the soundtrack is so cringingly awful. They play a bunch of weird pop songs that don't fit with the movie at all, and then cut between that and contrived nonsense score. The same score you hear in every movie ever. And people are coming out saying, oh, it's worth it just to see it for the soundtrack. And I was the whole time I was just sitting there why? Why? It's not good. As the movie progresses, the film tries to give these characters some kind of personality or humanity by gratuitous flashback scenes. Randomly, Deadshot has a flashback scene, and his daughter he's walking his daughter home, and Batman comes down, and he wants to shoot him, and his daughter goes, no, don't shoot him, because you shouldn't be a bad guy. And he doesn't shoot him, and he goes to prison, and that's the whole flashback. One of the last shots of the movie, Enchantress is doing this weird, like, hip movement dance, like she's doing the whole movie, just like, doing this weird thing, and they throw a bomb at her, and Deadshot goes to shoot it, and his daughter, like, appears in front of him, like the Enchantress is trying to make him not do it, and she's like, don't, Dad, and he shoots it anyway, and then, like, 5 minutes later, his daughter is talking about how he kills people, and she's, like, pretending that her math project is, like, him shooting somebody, and I just sat there like, wait, what? I thought she didn't want him to do that. Why? I mean, almost all these characters just either have no character at all, or have terrible flashbacks that do nothing for them. It's just pointless. Everything about this movie is pointless. It goes nowhere. It does nothing. The characters are crap. The writing is even worse. David Ayer's direction is so choppy, and the editing is so choppy, that you can't tell what's going on. It's incomprehensible nonsense. The whole movie. I keep going on about how it just doesn't make any sense. Because it doesn't. I mean, they go do a thing, and then a thing, and then a thing, and this happens, and that happens, and nothing connects at all. And they just have random flashbacks and fight scenes with piles of trash, and it's all for nothing. All of it happens for no reason. Like, they have fight scenes just out of thin air, like Harley Quinn's riding up this elevator, and all of a sudden these guys come in and she fights them, and then it just moves on. And then there's even a scene in this sewer where this army guy, Rick Flag, I think his name was, has a bomb, and he's like, we're gonna blow up the bad guy. Okay, Enchantress, you have to go blow it up. There's a 2-second timer, go do it. And she arms the bomb, takes off, and then the scene cuts. Like, what? What happened? Rick Flag was fine throughout the whole movie. Why didn't he die? She armed the bomb, and it zoomed in on it, showing that there's 1 second. What happened? It just cut. This movie sucks, man. And there's so many moments like that just don't do anything to the movie. They just are there. It makes you feel the reshoots. Like, they are apparent. They are obvious in this movie. It's so choppy with everything it does that you can tell when something was cut out or something was added in. And it's bad. None of it works at all. It doesn't flow to make a cohesive whole. It just is a scene, and then a scene, and then a scene, and then a scene, and so on, until the movie climaxes with an awful fight scene. It's a fight scene that lasts like 5 minutes against an all-powerful being that does nothing except taunt them. And then they just kind of like walk around, and then it ends. And that's like it. I don't even want to talk about this movie. A lot of people were really excited about Jared Leto as the Joker, and for the record, I kind of was too. I really like him as an actor. I think he did a fantastic job in Dallas Buyers Club. But what the heck was going on with his performance in this movie? I mean, what the heck was going on with his whole thing? I mean, why was he a pimp? Why was he a mob boss? Why was all the friggin' bad guys mob bosses? El Diablo had tons of face tattoos, body tattoos, and was talking like a gangster. What was going on with that? Why was the Joker talking like a gangster? Why did he have a tattoo of a mouth on his hand and he like covered his mouth and pretended to laugh with it? Like, what the heck was that? It's not intimidating. That's hilarious. Why? I don't understand. I don't understand this movie. And then he had like damage written across his forehead, and he had like a grill. Why? I don't get it. I don't get why these decisions were made. They seem so pointless. It seems like the movie wanted to appeal to some weird punk audience with its characters, and it just does not work. It's awful. It's so bad, and Jared Leto's performance is all over the place. It's so bad. If he had a better director, he probably could have been great. But he wasn't. And it's sad to say that because almost every other actor in this movie was pretty good. Will Smith did a great job, I thought, as Deadshot. I thought he was perfectly cast. Margot Robbie was hit and miss with her performance, and Jai Courtney was surprisingly not terrible like he usually is. He's pretty hit and miss, as is pretty much everyone else in the movie. Everyone else is really hit and miss. Will Smith's the only standout here, and Jared Leto and Cara Delevingne, I think, as Enchantress was terrible. Her performance is the worst thing. Even Will Smith's daughter, who seems like she has no acting lessons at all, was better. Enchantress's whole thing was just like hip movements and like dancing or something. I don't know what was going on with this movie. It's garbage. Nothing works in this movie. Everything is awful. The only thing that keeps this movie from being the worst thing I have seen this year is Will Smith, honestly. It's Will Smith, that's it. That's the only reason this movie even functions at all. Other than that, it's so poorly written, so poorly executed, terribly shot, terribly edited. All the performances are hit and miss. The logic makes no sense. The whole storyline is terrible, and nothing flows. There's no flow to this movie at all. It's a collection of scene and scene and scene and scene that's just meshed together to try and fool an audience into giving this movie money. And unfortunately, I did. I can't even talk. I hate this movie so much.